Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1553B, and today's date is April 25th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, They Feel Threatened, Deep State Changes Tactics, Next Move Could Be Huge. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, as we know, the DNC, they filed a lawsuit against the Republicans, Trump, Russia, WikiLeaks, Roger Stone, and it looks like right now Roger Stone's attorney, they have slapped the DNC with a notification to preserve evidence related to the case with the standard pre-discovery notice. Discovery is a pre-trial process by which one party can obtain evidence from the opposing party relevant to the case. Now, Stone is out there saying, my lawyers and I will demand to examine the DNC's servers and expose them to real forensic analysis, not merely accepting the claims of the DNC's paid contractor. But you remember the police, the FBI, no one even looked at these servers. And they're looking to get these servers, and they're saying that they need to preserve the evidence, which means they can't wipe anything off the servers. Now, they might have wiped it off already, but there are still ways to find the information on the drives. Now, they might have replaced the drives. They might have used BitClean, just like Clinton did with her emails. Once again, we won't know until the servers are basically handed over where they can inspect them and try to, get the data. Now, again, there's also backup tapes. There's also mirroring. So we need to see how far this goes. But we knew that this was going to happen. Actually, Q mentioned it. Trump mentioned it. WikiLeaks mentioned it, that discovery is going to be fun. And I also have to mention, if they did clean it all off, if they removed everything, the question would be, why? Why would you remove the evidence? Why would you do that if you're trying to prove that Russia, hit the servers and all these other things? So that wouldn't make sense either. Now, we see the Department of Justice is set to make 6 months worth of mysteriously missing, then found, texts between Strzok and Page. And these are the missing texts that are exchanged by these two individuals. They were both working with the highest levels on the Clinton email matter and the Trump Russian probe, and they're supposed to be brought out into the open. Now, Q did mention this, that on post 1260, red carpet event tonight, state dinner, what will the text reveal? Moab, or precursor to the Moab. So we can see that the deep state, they're getting nervous. They feel threatened. A lot of things are coming out in the open right now, and there's nothing they can do to stop this. Well, maybe they could use some major event to distract everyone. They've done this before. We see that North Korea right now, they have stopped their propaganda broadcasts on the border. Now, South Korea did it first. They shut down their speaker systems, and it looks like North Korea now has stopped their speaker system from broadcasting across the demilitarized zone. So we can see both sides, they are working together. We see that North Korea's nuclear test site has collapsed. And of course, researchers are out there saying that this is because of the tired mountain syndrome. They're saying after so many blasts, the mountain got tired, it collapsed. But there is another theory. The theory is this is where the assets were. This is where the clowns were. And basically, this was brought down on purpose to stop the clowns from developing and pushing this nuclear technology. It was just completely shut down. But of course, the corporate media is out there. They're using the tired mountain syndrome to explain this all away. We see that the Kremlin, they've commented on the political situation in Armenia. They're saying, listen, we don't want to get involved. This is an internal situation, and we don't want to get involved in this. So Q actually posted on 1245, just wanted to go back to that. And Q is out there saying that the order of countries is very, very important because this all leads us to Iran. And remember, each one of these countries, they are controlled by the clowns, the intelligence agencies, the deep state. So Saudi Arabia will then lead to North Korea. North Korea is taken care of. That will lead to Armenia. Clowns are removed from Armenia. That will then lead to Iran. Iran is a rogue nuclear state. Define hostage, Q says. Define protection. Who is protected by rogue nuclear states. Trust the plan, the world is connected. And again, we can see that rogue nuclear states are protected by the intelligence agencies. They use these countries to push their missions. We see that Macron blindsided the European allies. Now, Macron met with Trump. They discussed the Iranian deal. And remember, there is a portion of the Iranian deal that we cannot see because of national security. But Q did let us know that the taxpayers are paying about $500 billion a year, and we weren't even informed of this. And again, most of this money is probably given to Iran, and there's probably a slush fund. Then it gets dispersed to many other individuals like Obama, the intelligence agencies, and things like that. And we see right now that Macron was basically agreeing with Trump, where he's saying that we need to redo the Iranian plan. But we have a vision for a 4-part new accord that would introduce further restrictions on Iran's ballistic missile program while preserving the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Then Macron, I guess he met with his handlers. Remember, he's a Rothschild molded deep state operative. Macron says, well, we're going to basically not leave the Iranian deal, and he wants Trump to reject nationalism. So he was giving his marching orders where he is supposed to convince Trump. Trump is trying to convince Macron, and it looks like it hasn't gone anywhere. Now, once again, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Macron, and it seems like he's another puppet. That's basically what these people are. We see that Russia and Syria, they are showing off fragments of the missiles that they've captured. Many of them didn't have warheads on them. Many of them crashed and they didn't explode. So they're displaying that, showing that, yeah, look at these missiles. We have them. We see the OPCW investigators reportedly found no evidence of chemical weapons at the Syrian facility that was bombed. Now, if there were chemical weapons in this facility, they would have been spread all over the place. And we didn't see any of that. And a lot of people would have been sick. A lot of the hospitals would have been receiving these patients. But we saw none of that. And this is how we know there were no chemical weapons in there. And also we know the OPCW inspected this area. And this building was slated to come down later on. So this brings us back to the same exact question. Why did we target this building? Well, we know that Trump most likely met with Putin and Assad. Remember, night 4, night 5, kind of a blackout. Can't account for it. Also put the number 4 with Armenia, so maybe he was in Armenia meeting with Putin to remove the clowns there, to discuss the plans in Syria. And it's either the deep state was going to use this building to frame Assad. They knew that this building was going to be demolished, so this was the target they used to have come down. Now, since the missile strikes, since the bombing in this area, what have we seen? We've seen the deep state. They haven't gained any ground whatsoever. The Islamic State, the militants, the Syrian Democratic Forces, actually, they've been losing territory. Actually, what has been happening here is the Syrian army, they have gained ground on all of these different factions, all these terrorist groups inside of Syria. Actually, the bombing exposed these different groups because they were getting ready to attack, because they thought the missile attack was going to allow them to maneuver and push forward, which it did not. It actually exposed them. So it had the opposite effect. We see the Russian mission to the OPCW. They will bring the people who took part in the fabricated Duma video as witnesses. So this whole thing is coming down around the deep state. They basically set this whole thing up. Countries went along with it. And it looks like right now this was a setup to hold these other countries responsible for what happened. It's like a sting operation. And it looks like Trump, Putin, Assad, they were all in on the sting operation to get the deep state. And believe me, Putin, all these different leaders, they know that it's the deep state. They know who's maneuvering and who's pushing their agenda in Syria, because they've known all along that they've been pushing it in Iraq, Libya, Lebanon, Ukraine. It's the same players, and they knew eventually they were going to have to stand up to them. And we've been seeing lately that Russia and China, they have been standing up. They've been a little bit more vocal than they normally would be. So while Trump was with Macron, he continually said that we're going to be pulling the U.S. troops from Syria. We're going to be coming home relatively soon. And of course, everyone thinks like, well, we just bombed there. How are we going to be coming home? The deep state is building bases in Syria. Remember, their factions are still trying to push their agenda in Syria. It's not over just yet. Trump and the Patriots, they are maneuvering right now. This is why the USS Truman is there in that area. This is why Iran is next. And I think what they have to do first is set everything up. And once the clowns are out of Iran, I think then the troops in Syria are going to be coming home. And this is why he's saying very soon. Now, Q has been dropping a lot of different posts, and let's go through some of them. Post 1261, April 25th. They feel threatened. The deep state right now feels very threatened. This is about us. Expect more outcry. We are being set up and targeted. A DDoS attack. Now, to me, this sounds like the deep state, they're being threatened, and they're going to try to do something that's much larger than they've ever done before. Maybe not as large as 9/11, but they're getting very close, because as the walls start to close in around them, they're going to feel more and more threatened, and they're going to have to make a move. Now, what's very interesting is they're changing their tactics right now, and they're using this Toronto attack to push this new tactic. This is this individual that drove and hit many people. And what they're saying is that this guy is a loner. He hangs out on message boards like Reddit, 4chan, and it's an offshoot site of 8chan. Anyone that hangs out there is a misogynist. Online communities of men are celebrating and committing acts of violence. So what this tells me, and this is an article from NBC News that is reporting on this, and all the mainstream media outlets all have the same exact stories. They might change it around a little bit, but it's a huge push to say anyone that is on the 4chan or reading Reddit or on 8chan and reading anything on there, these individuals are misogynists, they're loners, and they'll be able to, and they will commit acts of violence. So this is the new setup, because what they're trying to do is say, listen, anyone that is listening to Q or reading his posts on 8chan or 4chan or on Reddit, don't listen to them. These are men that are misogynists. They are celebrating and committing acts of violence. So they're already trying to push this new agenda. Do I think it's going to work? No. We have to remember, a lot more people are hearing about Q. It's coming more widespread, and a lot of things that Q is saying actually are coming true. Q went on to say they must win. New strategy. They're going to promise jobs and money to everyone to try to get the votes. Where the money coming from? Well, we know universal basic income. That crashed and burned. They might try it, but it doesn't work. But they don't care if it works, because they just want to print as much as they possibly can. This is coming from the central banks. And they'll hand out as much as they possibly can to everyone. Is that going to work? Most likely not. This shows desperation. And that's exactly what Q says. They are desperate. They are nervous. Post 1263. Think logically. Attack the world. Are the people of France to blame? Are the people to blame, or the ruling class, the controllers? Are they the ones to blame? Yes, they are the ones to blame. It's not the people of the countries, just like the people of the U.S. It's the leaders who are corrupt, who are part of the deep state, that push their own agendas. They're the ones that we should be focused on. The central bank, that is where we should be focused on, because that's where it all stems from. And then through this free money, you have the neocons, you have the deep state, you have the intelligence agency with drug running, human trafficking, and everything else. Post 1265. We knew people would need a guide. We all have a part to play. We knew Flynn would be challenged. This was part of the plan. Flynn Jr. did not lie to the vice president. Timing, plan, moves and counter moves. What is right? What is wrong? Up is down, left is right, left is left. White House position, rapid changes. Why planned? Visibility in one helps another. Connected, CA to SEC of state, North Korea, Iran, Russia, China, MX. Why is this relevant? Think pushback, open source. Why? They are watching. Proofs provided to retain. Future proofs past. So basically he says things in the future. We go back to the posts and we show that yes, the past has come true. Post 1266. POTUS win 1/20. Deep clean. They never thought she would lose. They thought this was a done deal, that Clinton would win and everyone would be okay. Now, what is happening is all these deep state operatives, all these corrupt politicians, they're all in trouble because the truth is coming out. This is why he says deep clean. Nothing is deleted, right? Nothing is deleted. They have it all. Acts so sick and evil, conspiracy push fake, reality almost always wins. Trust the plan. Hard to swallow for many, which Q is saying is that when all this comes out about human trafficking, about the drug running, about the gun running, about what they are doing with young children, organ harvesting, the people are going to have a hard time swallowing all of this because this has been happening right under their noses. Treason, corruption, think resignation. Coincidence? Speaker of House resigning. Coincidence? You have more than you know. Where we go one, we go all. Q. And we can see right now that everything is starting to happen. It's accelerating, and we're going to see a lot more individuals resign because they're going to want to get out because they see the writing on the wall. And a lot of these individuals are going to start to run. A lot of these individuals, like McCain, is going to say, I'm not healthy right now. If you notice, a lot of these people are staying away from Congress, from their positions, because they understand and they realize that when the hammer falls, it's going to fall hard. And a lot of these people are going to be brought into the military tribunals, and they're all going to be put on trial, and this is not going to end well for any of these individuals. But once again, the deep state, they feel threatened right now. And since they do feel threatened and the walls are closing in around them, they are going to make something happen. It's going to be huge because they're going to need something very big, a very big distraction. Think about what's coming out right now. First of all, Trump put together all these executive orders, and he put these executive orders out there for human trafficking, to confiscate their funds, to surround these individuals. Building the wall on the border. This is why Arizona, California, these states are very important because this is where the human trafficking, this is where the gun running, the drugs, this is where all this is happening. This is where they make a lot of their money. And he's putting a stop to this. He's putting up a wall and stopping their funding. Remember, you have to go to the heart of the entire operation, and that is the funding, which all leads back to the central bank. Now, yes, there are slush funds. Yes, there's a huge amount of money laundering. But again, it has to start someplace. Just like in Syria with the Islamic State. Their oil convoys out of Syria into Turkey, that was their funding. Once Russia came in and blew it all up, guess what? The Islamic State fell apart. This is what Trump and the Patriots are doing right now. They are cornering these individuals and stopping and investigating how they are getting their funding. And Q has mentioned many of these things on how they move the money through certain banks, through foundations. People then launder the money through like HSBC. That's where Comey was on the board, very coincidentally. And then they distributed the money and everyone got paid. Everyone was happy. They used the Red Cross to maneuver all these funds. They have the Paris Climate Fund and all these type of things where they move the money because no one accounts for it. It just disappears. So they've been investigating all these different things to stop the flow of money, to corner the deep state. This is the whole thing. And this is why it's taking a certain period of time, because you just can't look at it and say, oh, I know how everything works. You need to track down and follow the paper money, follow the paperwork, follow the transactions. And once you have that, you can see, and you can step back and you can see the picture of what has been happening. Then you set up the executive orders, you set everything up to corner these individuals. And this is what is happening right now. And you can see by the investigations and how desperate the deep state is getting, they're backing themselves into a corner. And it's going to get worse as time goes on. And this is why we should all be a little nervous, because once these individuals feel really, really threatened, this is when they pull out the big guns. This is when they push their next event. And this next one is going to be a lot larger than anything that we've seen. And it might even be on the magnitude of 9/11. And a cyber attack would be in that area. And again, this is why Q has been saying archive everything offline, because I do believe they're going to try to wipe out not just, the news stories on the internet, but go into the banking systems and wipe out their transactions. All they have to do is say the financial systems were cyber attacked. All those transactions, all those records, gone. We don't know what happened. Those accounts, gone. Money was moved away, then deleted. This is what they are planning to do, because this is the only move they have left. So we can see that the walls are coming down around them. Time is running out. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.